How's everybody doing tonight? Good. I'm Stuart Messman. This is Craig Baker. We're officers with the Fish and Wildlife. And the reason we're here tonight is I actually reached out to Tiger. It's because we're having so many issues down here in the Southshore area. We also just want to be here to tell you who we are, what we do, the issues we're coming across, and what we're looking for out there. We do a bunch of these. Tonight's especially nervous because the Lescos back there, I've known my whole life that they're like second parents to me, so I didn't know they were going to be here till the last second. That's the only reason why I'd be nervous. But it's really laid back. If anybody has any questions, sometimes when we do these things, everybody has a lot of questions, sometimes they don't. It's just the nature of our business because there's a lot of questions when it comes to regulations and stuff like that. I'll give you a little brief introduction of what the FWC is. FWC, in the late 90s, you guys voted for a constitutional amendment to merge the old GFC and the Florida Marine Patrol to become the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. It was a constitution thing that passed back, I believe, 98, and we're the only state agency that's in the Constitution, so you can't get rid of us unless you pass another constitutional amendment. So you can't merge us with anybody. You can't. The governor can't sign us away. We're in it. What it is there's 7 commissioners. They make the rules. They meet 5 times a year. There's 5 meetings. The meetings are very public. They're throughout the state. Everybody's invited to, if it's commercial, recreational, just anybody who can be there. They can talk about the issues that are going on. There's rulemaking, how they create the rules, and then they put them in the regulations. It always different all year long. That's what happens. Within the commission, there's different parts of the commission. We're part of the law enforcement division. Each state agency, most state agencies have a law enforcement division. Everybody thinks of the state troopers as the only state law enforcement agency out there. They're actually the biggest, but we're second most. And then there's alcohol, beverage, all this other stuff. So that's what it is. We have biologists on our team and everything else. So we make up the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. Us as officers, I'll give you a little in-depth look about what we have to go through as officers so you know. I started back in 2004. Craig's been on for about 5 years. We have to go through, we have to apply like anybody else. We get accepted, we have to go to the Fish and Wildlife Academy. Fish and Wildlife Academy is 28 weeks in Tallahassee. It's a basic police academy for 20 weeks. Yelling, screaming, push-ups, doing all that stuff. And then the last 8 weeks is all FWC based. Now when I went through, the way it worked was, here's your class ranking, and here's the list of counties available. And then you pick, and that's where you go. You don't know where you're going to go to the last month of the academy. I ended up going to Lee County. I was in Lee County for 2 years. Craig went to Broward County. So he was there. I spent a couple years in Lee County, came back up here as an officer, and then I became an investigator, which dealt with boating accident, fatalities, and serious bodily injury, hunting accidents, undercover work, stuff like that. The boat explosion that happened at Barricade Island like 3 years ago, if you guys remember that from there, I was the lead investigator on that. Thank God nobody died in that. Could have been a lot worse than what it was. But after doing that for 2.5 years, I demoted, went to the Keys for a year. Went back to an officer and did the Keys, and then I came back up here as an officer again last year. Craig was down how long in Florida for?
18 months.
18 months.
Yeah. I finally got transferred back here, and I've been here for 2.5 years. Yeah.
And we both grew up in Hillsborough County, so we're well aware of what goes on here. I currently live in Apollo Beach. He lives near Port Tampa. So we know most of the people in the area. You might not see us as much because we're out everywhere. Now, I'll give you the reality of what we do is there's only a handful of us out here at any given time, covering 1 county or 2 counties. Sometimes it just be the 2 of us out. But don't get excited, it's our day off, so there's people out there working today and tonight. Can't go poach tonight. But when you see a map, for instance, see a map of the county, of Hillsborough County, we're responsible for all the boating, saltwater, freshwater, inland, hunting, anything like that. So if we got a call in Plant City, we have to go to Plant City. We have to go to Odessa, Fort Lonesome, to Ruskin, and all the waters, the lakes, streams, we're all responsible for that. So sometimes if there's one person covering that whole county, we do what we can to help and protect the resources. We're very proactive in what we do. We're not a reactive agency. Most of our most of the time, 90% of the time, we're out there looking for violators or what we think is the best way to approach boating safety and stuff like that. Occasionally we get calls about somebody doing something bad, boating accidents, people poaching, and we'll respond to those the best timely manner we can respond to them. But we like to let people know is there's not a lot of us out there. And we hear it on chat boards a lot, we hear it on the radio, but FWC doesn't respond. Well, I'm telling you, the reality of it is we do our best we can. The sheriff's officer tries to help as much as they can. The PD tries to help as much as they can. And that's basically it. So that's where we're limited by an officer. We can only do so much. When we're out there, most of the time, since we're water-based here, most of our activity is on the water. The majority now in the last few years is going to boating safety. It's about going out there, stopping people, looking for life jackets, fire extinguishers, checking fish so they have fish. Basically, that's it. That's what we're doing nowadays. We have occasionally to go work the woods. It's unfortunate we don't get in the woods as much. We have guys that strictly work the woods and don't get on the water. And we try to do freshwater fishing as much as we can. Everybody knows, and we'll bring it up since there's a lot of kayakers here and stuff like that. The main thing we're having issues with and the biggest violators we have is not enough life jackets on board. Here in Hillsborough County, it's a $90 citation if you don't have a life jacket, enough for one person, one for each person on board. It goes for, doesn't matter what size boat it is, a kayak, paddleboard, you have to have one on there per person. We tell people it's zero tolerance. Me working as an investigator, the majority of boating accident fatalities occur when somebody falls overboard and they don't have their life jacket and they can't swim. That's the majority. It's no longer a boat hitting boat, it's somebody falling overboard and not having a life jacket. So that's the main reason when we're out there, you're going to see us check in boating safety. The statute gives us the right to stop anybody at any time. It's different in the car. On a boat, and check for boating safety. Check your life jackets, registration, fire extinguisher, any of that stuff. So that's where our authority comes from. A lot of people say, you can't stop us out there. We can. It's all for boating safety reasons and fisheries. Fishing, let me go back to boating safety. We're having a lot of issues lately with the paddle boards. Everybody sees them out there now. Paddle boards is a huge thing. Kayaks. If you're not actually with the paddle boards, if you're not actually in a surf zone or in a swim area, you need to have a life jacket. If you know anybody that paddles boards, let them know that you need to have a life jacket and a whistle on board, because our big issue was nobody ever used them. They're out there in the bay, they're out there in these canals, and it's a vessel they need to have a life jacket. Same with kayaks. Kayaks, you got to have one life jacket per person. You got to have a noise producing device. It can be a whistle or a horn. It can't be your mouth. It has to be a mechanical noise producing device. And if you could be out there at night, but you just have to have a flashlight with you to make sure you go like that, to shine people.
Can you elaborate on the life jackets for kayaks and canoes? Because I have an auto inflate.
That's fine. You just have to have one Coast Guard approved life jacket. It doesn't have to be on you. For paddle boards, they'll strap them down. We tell people that they should wear those self-inflating ones. We have to wear them out there. The problem is they do get expensive. I know if you accidentally fall in the water, the cartridge is meant to go off. There's a little, a little pack in there that'll blow up. Those get kind of expensive to replace, but it's the best thing for you. If you fall over, hit your head, whatever, have a heart attack, that's the best thing for you.
Right.
So you don't have to wear one, but you have to have one on board.
Well, I typically wear it, but when I stop and fishing in a power boat
Yes, sir.
and I take it off, normally I wear it when I'm underway and whatnot,
Yeah,
but am I legally responsible for wearing it while underway?
No, you just have to have it with you. It has to be a wearable. It can't be a Type 4 cushion. That doesn't count. You have to have one wearable, one wearable per person on board. And you can either have it strapped down wearing it.
There used to be a lot of confusion about that. And some officers will still tell you that if you got an inflatable, it has to be worn while you're underway. It does not have to be worn. It's just you have to have one wearable per person.
Okay.
It does not have to be on whether you're underway or whether you're...
Because I was boarded in a canoe while I wasn't wearing it, and they were like, if you weren't anchored, we were going to write you up. I'm like, really?
No, as long as you have it with you.
Okay. Okay.
If you look at the bottom of like the flotation squares, you see the white ones or whatever. If you look at the bottom on the tag, it says it's not a personal flotation device.
Right.
Because we got told that down in Manatee County because my dad tried to argue with the guy, and the guy said,
Right. It is not a
"Mr.
wearable.
Hoffer, read that."
Right.
version that
Watch this.
Right, yeah, those water ones that self-inflate, you're supposed to be able, you can put a hose on it and it won't inflate. That's the theory behind it. It's only supposed to inflate when it becomes totally submerged. The little pack dissolves and it blows up when it is. Or you can pull it and everything.
On a vessel,
Yes,
you need one throwable device.
if it's over 16 foot, you have to have a throwable cushion. It has to be over 16 foot.
It has to be readily accessible.
And it has to be attached to a rope.
No,
Because Jersey, that's what it is.
it could be a ring or a cushion. It'll say Type 4 Coast Guard approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Type 5, that's the automatic inflate,
I thought it was 3.
We had so much we have to know.
yeah, I know.
Just so you know too, this is just the Fish and Wildlife statute book, regulations, and all is in this book. Now, there's also, since we're state certified, we have to enforce all the state statutes in the state of Florida. There's another book about this size. And we're also federally deputized with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and NOAA to do federal fisheries and U.S. Fish and Wildlife stuff.
All right,
To
let me
assist them.
rephrase my question.
Yes, sir.
Any life jacket, no matter whether it's inflatable or auto.
It has to be a wearable, yes, sir.
Type 1, 2, 3,
Wearable,
or
but
5.
I don't have to wear it while I'm underwater.
No, sir. Just has to be readily available.
All right, I just wanted to.
Type 5 is like more of a commercial
Oh,
type.
okay.
Cruise
Could
ships.
you explain readily available?
Readily available is, if it's
Type 3.
If it's in those little zipper pouches that everybody gets from West Marine or Walmart, and it's stuffed way down the bottom, we're going to tell you, you might want to have this, because those things, you know, it has to be realistic where you're not going to dig for it or unzip anything, because the zippers get, when you need one, you
Salt
got to
water,
have
they
it
get
readily
rusty.
available.
But under a hat,
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. But some people have them down in cabins and, you know, behind things, and it doesn't help you when you need one, because when you need one, it's going to be immediate. So, someone else? Yeah, yes, sir.
Oh, this may not relate to you, but also, on a commercial vessel,
Yes, sir.
are we required to have like a type 5 or type 7, the one with reflective?
You're supposed to have reflective vests, and actually, not to confuse you, you're not even allowed. You don't even need a Type 4 throwable on yours. But it has to do with a certain thing, but that's just for you only. Uninspected commercial vessel doesn't have a Type 4 throwable. If you're 16 feet or something like that.
When you guys board someone, do you also check their license?
We have the responsibility to check fishing licenses if they're fishing.
Question.
Yes, sir.
You board any one of their boats back there and you ask them for the license and they say, well, I'm 65.
Yeah, just show your driver's license.
Okay, now, snook season's open and one of them has a snook. Does he need a snook?
No, you're required. You don't have 65 and over. The only thing you have to have is a federal duck stamp. If you're a Florida resident, now if you're a non-resident, you got to get all the permits and stuff. But the only thing that's 65 and over, you don't have to have any permits, any stamps. The only thing you need is a federal duck stamp. If you
Or
want to
resident only.
resident only.
Non-residents don't have to buy the
Right,
fishing license
exactly.
stamps.
Snook season's not open on this side.
How bad,
We'll get into that.
Alright.
how much bad is the
Next thing you know, we're fishing.
We're not getting any confidence here like we used to get.
Can we come back to that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll come back to all that stuff, so I don't get off base, because that just brings up a whole other thing.
If you're on leave,
No, you gotta have.
yeah, you still gotta have, if you're active military and on leave, then you're not required to have a fishing license. If you're
Yeah, it's in here. It tells you all the license requirements in here. I just could get, these things can get way off base really fast. But, yeah. But honestly, too, another issue we have out there, and what we're looking for is the fish. We're inspecting the fish. You know, the regulations for saltwater, they change every 6 months. The commission, you know, if they feel like they need to change something, they'll go through the process of commission meetings, and they'll go ahead and they'll change it up. But,
No, if you have any disabilities,
yeah, it's,
yours is also from.
but all regulations are in the middle here. This is just saltwater. It changes all the time.
That's all you
Um,
require. Correct. Everything else,
Yeah, it's,
you don't need to crawfish stamp, snook stamp. You're good to go. No, if you're exempt from. Yeah, right. No, that's fine. That's fine. If I give you any information, it's gonna be correct information.
Right
If I don't know it, I'll find out and I'll It's a good chance.
Some people need different answers.
Oh, yeah. Well, we try to do the best we can, but, well, let me go back to the fish, just so you know. And then I'll get to the snook part of it here in just a second. One thing we have issues with, well, is when our laws have to do with harvest and possession of a fish. The harvest is when you actually take the fish out of the water, take it from the resources, you actually harvest it. And at that point, you possess it. That's where the laws come in. These have to do with harvest of fish. So, for instance, the best way to put it is from the Keys is you can have 6 lobster per day in the Keys. Now, let's say you have 2 people on board, you could technically have 12, but you both have to be actively fishing. Let's say, I'll use them in the back, Mr. and Mrs. Lesko are out there fishing in the Keys, and Mr. Lesko he's the one in the water, and he gets his 6 lobster. He's done for the day. Now, let's say he gets 6 more for Mrs. Lesko, and then you guys have your bag limits each. You can't do that. We have issues with, and I'm not trying to confuse me. The issue is you're only allowed to harvest what you can harvest, and you can't harvest for anybody else. That's the way the law is supposed to be. Now, in reality, we know that doesn't happen, and most officers think if the other person's helping in the act of fishing somehow, that's part of harvesting. So, not to confuse anybody with that, just so you know, that's how our rules read, are harvest and possession. When you measure a fish, they changed it a few years ago when we're talking about saltwater fish. Now, freshwater fish supposedly has always been, when you measure a fish, it's the mouth closed to the tail. If it's a total length measurement, and I'll tell you in the regulations, if it's total length or fork length. Fork length is when, you know, the beak, you go to fork. Total length, you're supposed to pinch the tail. It actually gives you a little bit more to do. It gives you a little more fish. So we want to let people know you're allowed to pinch the tail now, if it's total length measurement, stuff like that. All this is in these regulations, so please feel free to come look at them later on. I lost my train of thought.
Speaking on the pinch tail, most of your soft tail fish, your mangrove snapper, redfish, stuff like that, snook, that's total length pinching the tail. Your hardtail fish, your Spanish mackerel, kingfish, that's fork limit still. That's not a total pinch tail for, you know, total limit. So there is a difference between some of the fish. Most of your soft tail fish are total length pinch tail. Your hardtail fish are fork.
Yeah, so you'll see it in the regulations how you do it. We can talk about fish later on. Another thing we have an issue with that people ask us about is drinking and boating. The law states it's unlike a car, you can be drinking while you're operating a vessel. The problem is when you become impaired is when you're breaking the law. It's the same as it is in a car. Boating under the influence and drinking under the influence is the same thing. For instance, if you have a couple DUIs and you end up getting a BUI, it counts as your 3rd DUI and vice versa. So we try to tell people out there, especially during Gasparilla, you know, it's okay to have a drink. But most people ask, can you have a beer on board or liquor on board? Yes, and the operator can actually be drinking too. But once you get to that point of impairment is where the issue is. Now we have tests that we can do out there to find impairment. We're trained in that. And that's when it comes, you know, 1 beer might impair you. It's not always 0.08. 0.08 is just a limit they have where that's all you really need. But, you know, if you have 1 beer and you're impaired, we do by our test, then you're impaired, you've got a boating under the influence. So keep that in mind out there when you are boating. You're allowed to have a beer or a drink, whatever, but if you're the operator, make sure you don't become impaired because that's where the issue comes. Another issue we're having down here is, people ask us a lot, it's not really an issue, is duck hunting. Duck hunting has become a major thing in the bay. Now, I know you guys are a fishing club.
No, it's not.
Well, it is now.
Nobody out there duck hunting. Nobody out there duck hunting.
We've seen you shoot. No, it isn't.
There's a lot of ducks in the bay. Now, duck hunting closed 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So, yeah, but you can, the way the state of Florida did their laws last year is, it was House Bill 5 or something?
Yep.
45?
That's about 45.
45. And it took away a lot of the local and county ordinances when it comes to gun possessions and stuff like that. Anything that trumps the state statute for firearms is no longer allowed. So it used to be you couldn't duck hunt or fire a gun in the city of Tampa limits or Pinellas County or St. Pete. That's all gone. Now you can pretty much duck hunt anywhere in the bay as long as you do it in a safe manner and you're not negligent with it.
Except for the power plants.
You can't, we'll go to security zones here in a minute. That's another issue.
Duck hunting, you can't run a gun. You
Yeah.
gotta be stationary. There's a ton of ducks out there, you just can't drive up to them and start blasting.
Dynamite talk, right?
It sounds fun, but it's cheap the system.
But it's getting more and more popular. We get calls about it all the time about fishermen that want to go duck hunting. And we tell them anywhere in the bays, as long as you can do it safe now. We have people fishing up in the Courtney Campbell now, and they'll tell them, but keep this in mind, is the local municipalities and PDs are still not aware of how that House bill got away with some of their laws. So they'll come and may harass you, or they'll ask us, but from Fish and Wildlife, who actually regulate duck hunting, you're okay to go anywhere in the bay as long as you do it in a safe manner. So if anybody if you know anybody that asks that question,
Where are the ducks?
they're all over the bay. Tiger knows.
There's none.
But you can't, they're good now until next year.
Hey, I do have a question. When it comes to, I'll give you an example, Little Manatee River over here,
Right.
okay? Where you have houses along it. What is the legal distance away from a house you're allowed to shoot? Because
It says in the state statute, and I have to read like 7-something state statute, and it has everything to do with firearms. And we usually tell people as long as you do this, most people aren't shooting right next to a house, they get a little away. We don't have that issue. I can find out for you, because I know your number. I'll find out.
What if they're waking you up at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Transporting guns on boats, is there any?
No, as long as you're fine. Now,
I
the
mean,
issue
have the
is,
interlock key, like a concealed weapon kind of thing?
no, I mean, you could have,
Go ahead if you want to touch on it. We had an issue a while back, it's been a couple years ago, to where people were challenging the open carry law.
Yeah.
While you're engaged, coming to or from, or engaged in hunting or fishing,
or camping.
you can legally, or camping, you
Yeah.
can legally open carry out on a fishing pier, on your boats, whatever. As you don't have to have it concealed. So under our law, under our rule, you can open carry while you're engaged in hunting or fishing, camping, or coming to and from.
Yes, you could have a .45 Magnum on your side, walk into a
Or
pier,
Glock.
not have a concealed weapons license, open carry, as long as you're in the process of hunting, fishing.
Now you pull it out, start showing it,
Yeah, that's an
that's a
issue.
whole different issue. Then you're gonna get brandished.
twirling it on his finger, revolver, cowboy hat.
And we've had people challenge stores as well. If they're going to somewhere, they're gonna go fishing, they gotta stop in a store to get some tackle. People have gone into Walmarts. Stores have their own policy. If a Walmart says you cannot bring an open carry gun inside the store, put it away. If you walk in and say I have a right to carry, you're gonna get in trouble. By the city police.
What about like on Skyway Pier?
If you're fishing,
You can have it out.
you can have it out.
On public pier.
But you gotta remember too, most people don't know those laws.
Right.
So you're gonna get
Be mindful.
calls, people are gonna call on you, people are gonna yell at you, people are gonna come, and the local PDs don't even know that law half the time.
Yeah.
You mean if he walks on to a dock
Yes.
with 44
You
Magnum
can look
on his
just like
side,
this.
Okay, and somebody said, geez, that's a nice looking gun, and he shows it to him, he could be in trouble.
If somebody else calls and says, they complain, say, hey, this guy's showing his gun, he's flashing it around, it's up to you to prove that you weren't doing anything illegal. So best practice is keep it in the holster unless you have to use it.
Okay.
What are they gonna do, shoot a fish?
No, it's just for your own personal protection. You cannot shoot sharks.
We allowed to shoot.
You cannot shoot sharks.
Please.
No, it's for personal protection.
You're on the microphone.
Against other people.
Yeah, what about those ospreys that are still?
Can you use a bang stick on a shark?
You cannot pierce the skin of a shark, whether it's with a gaff, a bang stick, shooting it. You cannot pierce a shark. No, you can't spearfish sharks.
So you can't keep them?
Yeah, you can keep them.
How do you get them in a
You
boat?
tail wrap them.
Tail wrap.
You want to shoot him with a boat?
Not that.
Without a gaff?
You can do a
You
tail wrap.
cannot
Keep a
pierce.
shark, you can't gaff it?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah, they're federally protected.
Yep, you cannot pierce the skin of a shark.
But that's because
Anyway.
If you're gonna keep it, you can't release it.
Wait, that's Florida law?
that's at least the state of Florida, but those sharks are federally protected anyway.
No, but I'm saying, in other words, is it a federal or is it a Florida law?
He's the expert now.
For what? Piercing a shark?
Yeah, if you want
It
to
is
get the
federal.
shark.
Yeah.
It's a federal?
That's because some sharks.
We weren't piercing.
Most
But
sharks,
we know too.
All sharks are lawyers.
most sharks have a size limit. Most sharks, black tip,
Washington's full of sharks.
Yeah, we won't go there. There are size limit on certain sharks. Certain sharks, there's no size limit, but most of them, a lot of them are 54-inch minimum.
When did that law come in on the federal, that you can't pierce?
For what? You can't pierce, that's been in for,
It's one of those things that no one's ever enforced.
yeah, nobody enforces it. The reason I know is when I worked down in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, we had charter boats, you know, the big 60-foot sport fishers. They were going out and catching big tiger sharks, big hammerheads, and they were bang sticking them. They bring them in, they cut the head off for the clients, and discard the whole shark. So that became an issue. So we started enforcing that. When you bring a shark in, you can cut his tail, but you got to leave his skin intact. You can cut it, you know, to bleed it, or you can cut his throat. Everything else has to be intact. You can gut him, but you cannot cut the head or
But
the
you
tail
can't get
off.
them to bring them on.
Now, if I were out there and I seen somebody catch a shark and they were going to keep the shark, if I see them gaff him by the lip, you know, do like a mouth gaff or something like that, I'm not going to have a problem with it. What it is people will gaff them, get them off, let them go. A lot of people don't want to keep a shark. So,
One more question, I'll stop on you. I used to be part of a big shark tournament where we used to tag them. Now,
that's a different story. You're,
Okay,
not,
so I just wanna make
you're
sure.
tagging them for research purposes. You're not penetrating them for any other purpose. A tag is not going to hurt it. So, but yeah, that's a different game.
And that reminds me too, and this is all subject, so go back to what we do also is, back in July of this past year, 2012, Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, and their law enforcement agents became part of FWC. So now we're in charge of now state parks, any of that stuff they used to enforce is now all run by FWC. So it shows you the amount that we have to go through. Also, the Department of Agriculture law enforcement has become part of FWC. With all these total officers, we think we only have about 800 or 900 officers in the state. So we're usually based by county. We can cross county lines because we're state officers. But that's how it usually is. I just wanted to bring it up because that was an issue we wanted to let people know about. That now, like Alpine River State Park, stuff like that, we're in charge of enforcing as FWC officers. Now, the old DEP officers are still working in there. They're assisting us with still enforcing park patrol, but eventually we're all going to be doing it as officers getting in there. So it's just another aspect of our job that we have to end up undertaking that. Now, the main reason we wanted to come here tonight is a lot of people most of you guys are very, very nice people. We have no problems out there. I may have wrote a ticket to some of you. It all just depends. I don't know. So don't take any hard feelings. That's our job to do as a law enforcement officer. Remember, when we're out there, our job is to enforce the law. We don't play judge or jury. If you get stopped by us, if you're violating somehow, we write you a ticket. You have your right to have your day in court. So we're just doing our job out there. If somebody's blowing the zone, catching illegal fish, we're not telling you you're guilty. It's just you violated. Here's your citation. If you need a court date, you need a court date. In the state of Florida, every fish and wildlife law is at least a second-degree misdemeanor, at least. So if you have an undersized sheephead, undersized mangrove snapper, we have the right. You can't get a ticket for it. It's a criminal citation. That's an automatic court date. We can actually take you to jail for an undersized sheephead if you wanted to. So that's how the laws state, because there's so many variances of so many fish you can have, sizes. The judge will figure that out. You can, stuff like that. So I'll let you know that's what we do. Some people have a little will towards us. Our job out there is just to enforce everything, make everything safe. Now, issues we're seeing now here in the South Shore area are the slow speed zones. We want to bring up the slow speed zones, and we're going to talk about this. And let me get through all this real quick, and then we'll have any questions after. That's fine, because as you can tell, these things can go off in tangents in a hurry. Slow speed zones. There's county speed zones. There's state speed zones, and then there's federal security zones. The main slow speed zone that's county in the state of in Hillsborough County runs from the Alafai River to the Little Manatee River, and it's actually to the Manatee River, I think, or Manatee County line, because it runs past Cockroach Bay. It's a 6-foot depth line. It's a slow speed zone. Coming out of Simmons Park, if anybody fishes out of Simmons Park, you have to be slow speed going out of there and coming back in, all the way till you see resume normal safe operation. That could be up to a half a mile to a mile, depending on which way you go. I'll explain the speeds to you real quick. like 4 different kinds of speed. There's idle speed. Idle speed is just enough speed to maintain steerage. So that's all it is. Slow speed is different. That's where people get confused. Most of the zones out here are slow speed. Once your boat, the way we tell people is, it's just above idle, and once your bow starts raising, when you power up and your bow starts raising, you're above slow speed. Slow speed differs per vessel, depending if it's big or small. It's not always a mile per hour, because it's not. But once you put it in gear and your bow starts raising, you're above slow speed. Now the main channels, the main speed zone out here is slow speed zone. We have so many issues with the Simmons Park area. And if anybody fishes in Simmons Park, or you know anybody, when you leave Simmons Park, it is slow speed till you see resume normal safe operation. Now, the last speed is resume normal safe operation, which means you go balls to the walls, do what you want to.
Safe and idle, which is
What's that?
safe speed and idle.
It's idle speed, slow speed, resume normal operation, or there's a mile per hour involved. One of those 4.
About no wake.
Is usually idle speed, no wake. No wake is idle speed. It should say the boat. If you just, it's the way it is. Some people just put no wake signs, put no wake signs.
That's idle speed.
That's idle speed. Because the slow speed will still create a little bit of a wake. It has to do with your bow rocks and things like that. Resume normal safe operation. You let people know this. Just because it says that, it also says safe in there. It's safe speed for that condition where you're at. You still have to follow the navigational rules of the Coast Guard, which is proper lookout, safe speed. So it has to be safe for those conditions. If somebody's out there in a resume normal safe operation zone, going idle speed, and you blow by them going whatever you want to, you have to remember is you're responsible for your wake. The speed at that very time might not say to go full speed, it might be to slow down. So that's why it's such a broad thing. You have to keep that in mind out there when you're doing that. Most people just see resume normal safe operation, I can go as fast as I want to, nothing else cares. So keep that in mind. The main speed zones around here are slow speed. You have to read the signs. When you see a sign, what it says, that's the speed it is till you see the next sign. And so it says slow speed, you're slow speed till you see something else. You got to keep that, because we have people all day long at Simmons Park, and if we're out there, well, there's so few of us, if we were out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you'd ride people all day long. And I know a lot of people put in Simmons Park, that Fishers Club, you just keep that in mind when you come in. Yes, sir.
If you get caught off guard with a thunderstorm or something like that.
The only thing that you can blow a speed zone for, if you're an FWC officer, if you're an FWC officer, in the proper course of their duties, we can blow the zone. That's why you might see us out there. If we have to go somewhere, track somebody else down, catch somebody, we can do that. Secondly, as anybody else, if it's a lightning storm, it has to have lightning. It can't be just raining. If it's just raining or windy, too bad. You guys went out that day, it's slow speed. Or if it's lightning or imminent threat or danger, it's the only ways you can blow it. So if it starts lightning, by all means, we want everybody to be safe. No one's going to bother you. If it's just drizzling or windy, you have to abide by the speed zones. Okay?
See a water spout coming at you?
Yeah, that's imminent threat.
You don't need lightning for that.
What's that, sir? If it's a health issue, then that's understandable. You know, it's a health. But most people say it's raining, we're going to come in, and they say too bad.
Or they don't want to get wet.
Security zone. Here's a big issue that's going on for everybody to know. Federal security zone and the TECO power plant. All right. And we were hoping there'd be some more guides here. Hopefully our captain over there will help spread the word. Or if you know any guides, please spread the word. And then we see a lot of recreational fishermen there also. TECO power plant. The inflow and the outflow is absolutely off limits no matter what. If you're a guide, if you're a recreational fisherman, you cannot be in there. If you're familiar with the outflow of TECO power plant near if anybody's familiar with Apollo Beach where the nature preserve's at, you go in there, and then there's the wall, the little metal wall. Inside there, you absolutely are not allowed to be in there no matter what. The only way you can be in there is if you have and we even asked the Coast Guard this, you have to have a physical piece of paper with you from a signature of the captain of the port, which is one lady who's out of Sector St. Pete. She's the captain of the port. She has to give you written permission to be in there. Some guys that the recreational guy don't really understand, they have TWIC cards, like we explained to you. Another issue is if you have a TWIC card, you cannot be in there. The issue we're having is there's a lot of people go in there, people see them. We're not always there. but it is a federal citation, and it's thousands of dollars if you want to enforce it.
What are you talking about, inside the
metal-
barrier?
The riprap.
Yes, sir.
Where the metal wall ends, there's a cross there.
You can go right in there.
You can go all the way to Manatee.
Yeah, you can go all the way to Manatee
You have to
there.
stay outside
Right.
the,
What about the cut on the north side of there?
No, it's closed off on
The
that.
first cut, which is the inflow,
No, I'm talking about the cut that's running, that runs up to the mangroves, a big wide cut where they just redid the left side, the right side. In other words, you come into the markers,
Yes, sir.
and you got your buoy there.
Yes, sir.
There's a cut that goes off to the left. It's a big wide cut. It's about 40-some feet deep.
the only thing that they, well, we'll get you in a minute with that, because there's a map. And we'll let you know that, and we'll let you know that officer security zones are confusing out there. For any of the recreational fishermen out there, there's not really a sign for it. A lot of times we just vote, 99% of the time we warn people. But if it becomes a constant issue, the Coast Guard wants to get involved. If the local PD, the local sheriff's department tells you anything differently, they are wrong. I will tell you that right now, they are absolutely wrong. You could not be in there without a letter from the captain of the port. Now, there's security zones all around Tampa Bay. And they're not well marked. You have to go on the Coast Guard website and find them. And it's a pain in the butt. But the main one you guys are going to have concern with here is the Tico power plant. And you have to, just the best thing is do not stay, and don't be in the inflow and don't be in the outflow. Even if you see 10 people in there, the problem is if everybody sees everybody else in there, it's becoming such a federal issue, it's unbelievable.
What about the coal side over there where they actually load the coal?
No, it's the first, if you go up around north, and there's that little island you go to,
Yeah.
the first canal is off limits. The way we point it to is,
The straight inland?
yes, sir,
Straight inland.
just to the north side of the power plant.
Yeah.
That's off limits, and I can show you the map too. The other two channels are good. Once you hit the tip of that little sandy island out there,
That Fish Hook Island there?
yes, sir.
that's open
The tip of it,
individual?
no, the tip of it towards the power plant is all off limits.
Okay.
Once you hit that tip, you can't be past that point, or in that first canal. So, yes, sir.
Noticing on here the Port Manatee, I took that course,
Okay.
got a flag and
He knows
turn
that.
it in and blow a whistle and
Yeah, there's an issue with the, if you
Yeah.
push out your Port Manatee.
The island, everybody's, I'm sure, familiar with it. There's an island just off of Port Manatee. There is a restricted zone around that island. I believe it's like
500 yards.
500 yards, say 300 feet or so. 500 yards. In order to be in that zone, you have to have a flag. I don't know the procedures of taking the course, but you got to take a course through Port Manatee, right?
yes.
4-hour course.
A 4-hour course.
4-hour course, $50 to take it. It's good for an hour
25.
long.
Now, is that for employees only though?
No, public.
Anybody, the public can go take that course.
They won't give the course till they have enough people to fill a class.
Okay. That's new to me. I didn't know
And then
that.
don't you have to radio in?
To fish that zone, that restricted zone by the island, you have to have a flag flying, and you have to have a card like this gentleman has here. If you don't have none of that, you're in violation of the restricted zone.
You're supposed to call in too, I
And
think.
yes, sir. Yes,
And that's
you're
only the
supposed to
Port
call in
Manatee
the
one,
port.
that's the only one you can do it.
Right.
And then, just so we don't get off on another tangent here, one last thing that we have an issues with that you may notice out there. Slow speed zones, and I already talked to the captain about this over there. A lot of captains in Hillsborough County have a permit through the county to blow the speed zone. So, if you see somebody blowing the zone, they could be a captain. Now, we found out today, it used to be you had to be on a charter to do it. And there was a certain mile per hour, like 25 miles per hour. You can't be above, they be on a charter. That's the only way they can blow the zone. We have a lot of issues with captains where they just blow it anytime they want to. We're going to pull them over every time because the expectation is, to everybody else is, they're in a slow speed zone, we need to pull them because we have to make sure the permit's on board. So you may see that out there, and that's why we were hoping to talk to some of the guides, is these permits are starting to get abused. We're starting to enforce it on behalf of the public and everybody else because if somebody's in a slow speed zone, stationary, going slow speed, and somebody blows by them, even though they're allowed to, they still have to follow the rules of the Coast Guard, the navigational rules, and that might not be the best speed at the time. But, just so you know, if you see something, like a guide captain blowing these zones out here, that they're allowed to if they have the permit from the county.
Coast Guard inspections of your boat,
Yes, sir. That's,
would that stop you from boarding me 3
No.
times in a year?
no, we can board you what it is.
Every day.
Every day if we want to, and it's not harassment.
Do you look guilty or something?
I don't know.
If you go to Gasparilla, you'll probably get boarded 10 times. What it is, and we'll tell you this, let's say for instance, is you would have one life jacket per person. You would have a good fire
You
extinguisher.
was on it.
Yeah. But let's say you have two people on there today.
Ah, he was on it.
Let's say you have two people on there today, and you have 2 life jackets. And tomorrow you have 3 people, and you still have 2 life jackets. You're in violation. Well, let's say you have 5. That's why we check you every day. That's our, the way they say is boating and fishing are highly regulated in the state of Florida. That's what gives us so many rights above everybody else. Search and seizure laws and stuff like
It's
that.
different than the regular police.
It
on the
is.
street
Yes,
where
sir.
they can't stop you.
Right.
Yep.
They
It's
gotta have
different
a
in the
violation
car.
to stop you.
So-
We don't need no violation at all.
Were you involved in the kayaker from McGill?
From last year?
Passed away,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we were all.
Somewhere, yeah.
last year.
It happens. I mean,
We
unfortunately.
just rescued 3 guys 2 weeks ago from behind McDill in a canoe
Yeah, I
at
know.
like 10 o'clock at night. The wind was blowing probably 25 miles per hour.
Blew them away, or?
One kayak flipped over. It had 2 people in it. They hopped in this other guy's kayak, half full of water, taking on water, cold, freezing wet, everything. It happens. Yeah, 1 second.
You see a lot of sheriff department folks out there. They enforce.
I don't see a lot.
Down from the south, they say.
Yeah, Manatee County, they do pretty well.
Fishing, or what's their purpose out there?
Same thing we do.
So they,
Same thing we
they're
do.
enforcing.
Yes, boating safety, fisheries violations. They do it all.
We went into Tampa the other day on a yacht, and there was apparently a flammable container coming in. There was sheriff and Coast Guard,
Yes.
all around it, even some guys with, machine guns on the back.
Any of the chemical containers that come in, most of them are anhydrous ammonia. I think that's the main one. They do get escorted in by usually 2 law enforcement boats, whether it's Coast Guard, us, Tampa Police Department, or Sheriff's Office. You have to stay 300 yards away from those at all times, and if you're not, you're going to get harassed pretty hard.
So the sheriff would peel off and
Yes,
chase folks
exactly right.
away. And,
Yep.
Well, hold on. Let me go ahead and stop everybody because I don't want to take away from your meeting at all. And we've been up here for an hour, and this so you can tell, it could be a bunch of 20, 40 different what-if questions. We'll be available here for a little bit. We don't want to take away from you because we could be up here another hour.
You want to come
What
to
if-
the lights, your lights, I'm programmed.
Whatever you guys need to leave my car. That's fine. But there's stuff up here for you. Feel free to take whatever you like for regulations. I just don't want to let this drag on for your meeting because it could be a late night. But we're going to be here for a little bit, so we appreciate you guys for having us here, explaining what we do and everything like that. And if you have anything major, please come find us here. We can talk to you. We want you guys to enjoy your meeting too.